Okay.
I think we're recording now.
Just waiting on Deb. Should be. Yeah. Coming. If not, we'll wait till.
According to me,
Coming to the Planning and Development Committee meeting, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. Approval of the agenda. Recommended that the Planning and Development Committee meeting agenda for June 21st, 2023 be approved as circulated.
we just having technical issues.
No, it's all good.
Oh, it's all good? Okay. I just saw that the little white thing isn't
I
on.
forgot to ask any late items. Anybody have any late items? Add to the agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Deb, seconder Ian, thank you. Adoption of the minutes, recommended that the minutes of the planning committee meeting held on June 7th, 2022 be adopted. I have a mover, John, seconder, Ian, thank you. All righty, we'll move on to development services update. I think that's Scott.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, just our regular update. Couple new applications. One of them that is going to be considered at this meeting today. Another one, I think we're waiting for a bit more information on. We can go to council. I don't think we have anything on this list going to council. But yeah, two of them were, so one St. Louis Creek frontage roads, that DP was issued at the last council meeting, and then the DBP one was issued at the council meeting as well. I thought just a little ALC updates. We did get some results back from the land commission. 1450 Solsco Sickleys Road, that was for a distillery, where they wanted to have an expanded size of a distillery, and that one was denied. So the agricultural land commission said no. Basically, if you provide 50% of your inputs come from the land, then you can have a distillery. And I think the rationale from the land commission was they'd like to see them get up to that 50% before they have a distillery and not have 25 or 30% and get the distillery started. So that one was denied by the land commission. And then 1450 Solsco Sickness Road, the community events at the dog park. So that one was approved, and they did remove the satellite camping. Satellite camping was prohibited for any events at the dog park, so they did remove that. But any events that had satellite camping, they would have to apply for their own non-farm use. So if across the road, the neighbor said, "Hey, I'll provide camping," they would still have to apply to the land commission to provide that camping. But the event itself could occur with satellite camping. So that's for 5 years. So for 5 years, we can continue to use the dog park as we've been using it.
Hey, Scott, can I ask about that is that the property across the road? It was right across the road is Jim and Val Woods. Is that are you talking about the big one with the hydro?
So this application was only for the dog park.
Okay.
Any events can continue, and I just using an example, like if they are going to provide satellite camping,
Yeah,
they are allowed to, but that other property, whichever other property it is, would have to apply.
after 5. Okay. Yeah.
That was one of the sticking points for Monashee last year. It was like no satellite camping, so it hampered them on their ability to provide that.
Okay. Okay, just a quick one on the number 100 Archibald Street. What's that? Is that is there something going on there? Have we, or is that public knowledge?
No, upgrades.
Oh, marine upgrades? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Good to know. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Deb?
Just a general question. I know I zoomed in and so I only actually missed one meeting, but I've been gone for 5 weeks. And so I guess coming back, I kind of expected things to be moving and shaking around town. And are things moving forward and happening? It just seems like for this time of year, I would have expected more activity to have fallen out of our current applications or, what's just a general comment. I don't know, like, are you guys seeing things happening or?
I think in the last couple of weeks, like the building inspections, certainly we've been quite busy. So we're seeing lots of building.
On the building inspection side? Good.
Yeah, everything else seems like it's going okay. John has noticed, like the bylaw enforcement officer has noticed that there just doesn't seem to be as many people in town. And could be due that people are, maybe the fires in Alberta are making people stay closer to home, or maybe another thought was that now that, borders are open up and people can travel more, maybe people are taking advantage and then the kids aren't out of school yet. So, but yeah, John's noticed that it's not quite as busy as he's seen in the past.
Go ahead, Vinny.
I have a question about, what is 1006 McLean McPherson? 1006 McLean McPherson, so that used to be a gas station.
Panda?
Put an application in to move the A&W.
Oh, that's that one.
Yeah, so.
And what's the additional information where?
The main one is the contaminated site issues, so they're going through that contaminated site process.
Okay, so that site hasn't been remediated?
I don't know, I think that's the thing, it's once they're in the process, it's the province needs to clear the property before they can.
And was that the one that was sent out for consultation?
That one, that's right, yeah, we did send that out.
Scott, I just, I don't know how that whole contaminated site thing works, because you fill out a site profile, and if you fill that thing out wrong, you could be in trouble. But anyways, so you fill that site contaminated thing out, and then they say you got to clear the property. So they tell you you need a phase 1 or phase 2 environmental study. We did that on Mountain Park, but more for financing, and property came back clean. But why does it take so long for the province to make a decision for this poor fellow down here trying to do it?
And I don't know the answer to that. I know in the past, and I'm talking, we'll say 5, 6, 10 years ago, you'd submit your paper and make sure you got it right.
Yep.
Yes or no, wherever you need to. And you submit it, and they used to get a fax, like so long ago that you get a fax back. The fax would tell you what your next step is. Like it would actually tell you, and it was very clear. I would know what the person's next step is. The person holding the paper would know what their next step is. Now you get an email that directs you to a website that you get to choose kind of your option. And it's very confusing. And I would say now you almost need an expert, like a professional who does the phase 1 site profile to help you get through that process. Like because it is that difficult. I can't give anybody advice on it. Like I'm not supposed to, but it's just really hard to do. And the processing time from the province is a very long time.
Yeah. So imagine like for a community like Vancouver.
But
I mean, it just puts everything, grinds everything to a halt, and everybody gets, developers are few and far between to begin with, and to come up against that roadblock, and then, all these, investigations, site investigations, it all costs money. So I was just curious.
And it used to be, town or a municipality could choose not to participate in this site profile process.
Yeah.
You still had to identify potential contaminated sites. You still had to ask them to go through the process, but you could not participate in the provincial process. And that changed about 3.5 years ago. It changed that every municipality had to participate. So I think that has been, I don't think perhaps the province realized how much more, how many more applications they'd be seeing now that everybody has to participate. So probably that's also big issues.
Okay, interesting. Okay, and then I had one other question on, have we heard anything about the Dairy Queen? They still,
So their permit's been issued, their building permit's been issued.
awesome.
So
So they're just waiting on contractors or hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
So Deb, there's a couple things, maybe.
Mhm.
So,
I see they're busy at the Paradise and that too, so.
okay. So we good then, Scott, with ALC decision updates? That's pretty straightforward. Okay, well, anybody else have any more questions? No, we're good. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Development variance permit 23-224 DVP. I'll read the recommendations and then we'll go to discussion. Recommendation 1, that the Planning and Development Committee recommend council authorize the issuance of development variance permit number 23-224 DVP to vary the requirements of a maximum floor area of a secondary dwelling and the maximum permitted height of a fence for the property legal described at lot 1, section 19, township 21, range 7, west of the 6th meridian, Kamloops Division, Yale District Plan 12788, located at number 1 Wolf Street. Can I have a mover on that?
Oh, sure.
Okay, Ian, seconder Deb. I'll read the second one too, just we might as well get them both going here. Recommendation number 2, that the Planning and Development Committee recommend council authorize staff to discharge restricted covenant number CA 1351472, subject to building permit for the property legal described as lot 6, section 19, township range 7, west of 6th meridian, Kamloops Division, Yale District Plan 12788, located at number 1 Wolf Street. Can I have a mover?
Well, could I ask what the restrictive covenant is before we?
Well, let's move it and then second it and then we discuss it.
Sure.
Mover Ian, seconder Deb, okay.
I'd just like to know what I'm actually
What you're
moving
moving?
before.
Discussion on both variants or both recommendations, I guess. Or do you guys want to give a little bit of a rundown? Thank you, Sarah.
Chair, thank you very much. So this is the location of 1 Wolf Street. It's down the Montcalm subdivision there. Next slide. It's designated low density residential under the community plan and is zoned R1 zoning bylaw. So the proposal is to convert an existing garage that has a studio in it into a coach house. In order to do that, it means physically separating that space from the garage by constructing a wall and putting in a door. And they would also need a premium kitchen. So there is currently a full washroom in there, 2 bedrooms and a living space, but it's open to the garage currently. The proposal also includes replacing a section of fence neighboring properties. There's an elevation difference between the two, so they would like to make the fence a bit higher to provide some privacy to the neighbor when they're using their hot tub. And the neighbor did provide, written confirmation that they're in support of the coach house conversion as well as site. Next slide. So in terms of discussion here, and I did miss, I'm gonna go back one, sorry. So the main house on the property is a little small for this existing building. So this all predates our current zoning bylaw. And the previous owners that developed the garage did get a variance for accessory building floor area. So this is back in the day when the old zoning bylaw had a maximum of 84 square meters for floor area. So they did get a variance for that. So they don't need that today. But they do need a variance because the existing house is a bit small to support the floor area of the coach house. So the coach house, like the portion that's the dwelling unit inside the building, does not include the garage floor space, is 78 square meters. And then the main house, which is a mobile home, is 96.6 square meters. So they do need a variance from that 40% maximum to 81% to support this going through. So I mean, in future, we could see that mobile home, you know, in a decade replaced with a single family home that has a much larger floor area. It's typical that they would be much bigger, so it's about 1,000 square feet, this mobile home, and typically you would see in newer builds 15 to 2,000 square feet. So we could see this property come into compliance later down the road eventually. Next slide. So discussion, already covered a bunch of this. The little home's kind of small, so it doesn't really support for the coach house. That's why they need a variance. They had a previous variance in 2008 for accessory building floor area. Parcel coverage on this property is about 17.6%. So we have no issues with that. Some 40% parcel coverage in the zone. Fences for the neighbor's privacy. The use is permitted in the zone. They can have a coach house. And we don't expect any negative impacts to the existing building. There's no changes to the driveways, anything like that. They do, however, the covenant removed from title. And this covenant happened in 2008 when the original developer had applied for the floor area variance for accessory building. Because at that time you weren't allowed to have a secondary suite in an accessory building. And so these folks had wanted to just have a studio in there. I'm not sure what type. I'm curious. I'm intensely curious. I'm like, was it a potter's studio? Were they a painter? I don't know. So anyway, they do need this covenant removed to allow for this. Is now permitted use, and that covenant prevents that permitted use. So that's why we're looking for that direction to remove that. So in terms of the internal referral process, we do currently have a building permit application on file that's waiting for this process to be completed so that they can install the wall and the kitchen. Law enforcement, they support this application. Fire chief has no concerns, and operations and engineering did note that the size of the water service may or may not be adequate, so they may want to. It's a 3/4 inch water service. We'll be adding fixtures with the new kitchen to what's already there on the property. So the building is already connected to sewer and water, but there'll be a few extra fixtures.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the overview. Discussion. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns of the two recommendations, or the opponent is in the galley, I guess. Okay, go ahead, Darren.
I mean, I plan to vote for every single coach house that comes to council because we're trying to get to these lots densifying to potentially 4 units. So this would be 2. So you're halfway there, I guess. I guess my only question is maybe to the proponent. Do you have some plans to move off the mobile home in the future, or like, it doesn't matter? I'm just asking really.
Right now.
Yes.
Doing the job.
Yeah.
He has a tenant in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be moving into the coach house. You're planning on moving into the coach house though? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is great. I mean, the more we can encourage people to turn garages or other uses into more housing, I'm for, and I'm glad that your neighbors are supporting it too. That makes it easier, and wish you all the luck on it.
Anybody else? Oh, good. Brad, I just made ask, I do have had a couple concerns, a couple people asked me about, are you running a commercial operation there? And I know you're a little bit of a car buffer, I think. And so are you running, is it a commercial operation or just private stuff? Yeah, okay, good, good. Yeah, they have, and I haven't asked, I haven't knocked on your door and asked, and I mean, no, I don't think we've had any complaints either that I know of. You know, nobody, the bylaw hasn't said anything to us about it, but.
I think this is an active bylaw file.
Oh, is it? Yeah, because I've just heard comments from 2 Mile residents. And I said, I don't know. I don't think it's an issue if he's not running a commercial, because it's not commercial property, it's residential property. Is that correct? Yeah. So just, make yourself aware that, the neighbors are, they ask counselors all the time, what's going on? I think we're hit up every day, at least 2 or 3 times a day on different things. And that's one of the ones that I've been hit up on. So just thought I'd let you know. Yeah, but no, I mean, we support, that's what we, had the whole housing situation. We support more densification and cottage suites and secondary suites. That's what we're looking for, to bring, have places for people to rent and move into. So that's good. Okay. So recommendation, everybody else good? No more comments? All right, so may I have a motion to approve the first recommendation? Oh, we did that.
I
Okay.
think we did
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we did that.
All in favor for both?
Yep.
Okay, carried. Great, well, I'll go to council very soon, I think. Great, okay, we're gonna move on to building regulation bylaw. Who has that one? Scott?
This is one the committee's seen a couple times for citing permits. So we're looking at putting some regulations in for buildings that fall outside the building code. So park models, shipping containers, greenhouses, or the fabric covered storage structures that are don't fall under the building code. We do see up as issues from time to time. Shipping containers in particular, they're only allowed in commercial or industrial zones. And I'd say most people, they call up the district or ask some questions, say, do I need a permit for a shipping container? The answer is no, and then it appears. And often we do have a number of regulations for shipping containers in the zoning bylaw, including setbacks. When it becomes a building, then and typically once they're delivered, people aren't gonna move them. And they have to hire a special vehicle. So, and we also got other residential zones or country residential zones or something like that. People put them right on their property line, thinking they make a great fence. They add a billboard to them, thinking they make a great sign. So yeah, this would just require them to get a citing permit, and then we can inform them of the conditions. Have a shipping container. And then the other one is park models. Again, we're trying to address some issues before they arrive. They're not regulated or approved in some of the parks, so they're just showing up and they're placed there. And then often they're out of the factory, they're coming with some kind of additions and things, and that encroaches on the setbacks or parcel coverage, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're looking at adding them to the building regulation bylaw, and then we can start asking people for permits, and then hopefully address some of the issues that arise when they arrive, and easier than after the fact, addressing the issues after the fact. It gets costly to move them for park models in particular, where they're getting connected to services.
Okay, that's good. No, Scott, there's no recommendation here. This is just discussion. Is that what you want to get some more comments?
Yeah, and if this group wants to make a recommendation, then
Okay. All right, anybody have any comments or concerns?
Yeah, so I've had concerns with citing permits since I've first seen this. or I'm just kind of thinking this through a little bit. I don't. I mean, and I think I've said the same comments that when we talked about the I mean, I voted against the bylaw, the roads and boulevards bylaws. I really feel like we have to take a look at the bylaws and the regulations we have and start figuring out how they all work together rather than passing more. I don't think we have a good handle on how all these are interacting. I think there's some things that concern me around bylaw 1000 when we pass them that this would apply to. I know there's a few issues or things that we're working through with people who have park models as well in certain parks that I don't feel comfortable putting citing permits in before I get some clarity on how we're going to move forward on some of those other larger issues that are going to affect lots of people. So I'm not going to say no for forever, but I don't support this right now. I don't think this is ready to be implemented at this point. Now, we know that we have some potential developments coming up where this could be useful, but I don't think we're there yet. And I'd like to, so if this is going to council, I plan to vote no on it for all those reasons. I think we need to sit down, look at the regulations, how everything's going to impact, how all these permits are going to impact. I'd like to get broader public consultations or knowledge about these things as well out there, so I can hear people's feedback, because I do think this is going to have, I think there's going to be some strong comments on this. And I think, you know, part of it is just based on the type of town we are, that people move to small towns for a certain level of freedom. I get the intent behind it, but I want to make sure that that's the actual, but this isn't just another layer that we're putting on. And I'm not comfortable that it isn't another layer. So I'm going to say no, I don't recommend this go to council, but if it does, I'll be voting no on it. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Anybody else have anything before I close? No, good. I had a couple things and actually three things. Scott, have we gone out to the park model places and just had them run by this and see if they, you know, is it going to affect them in any major way?
The park model places being,
You know, Silver Sands.
Sansom.
well, we've definitely heard from Silver Sands. And they, I think Terry Gold was at one of these committee meetings. I think you heard his comments on it. I have met with Sycamore Sands and they seemed okay with it. Still waiting to get some info from Sycamore Sands, just for changes they'd like to see in their park. But yeah, they seemed okay with it.
Okay. Okay, we're going through and doing amendments to the zoning bylaw 1000, the new one we just passed, and with key designated sites or whatever, we've got some minor issues. But could this, I mean, I know you're saying citing permits are separate than the building, you know, the building permit thing. Could we not take a look at this at the same time as we're doing that review and those amendments and include this into the bylaw 1000?
Well, I guess it is included by bylaw 1000 as far as, you know, the location, the use. It's that there's no requirement for them to actually get a building permit. So it's the units are arriving, and once they're delivered, they're not moving. Seem like it's easy to move a shipping container or a park model.
No.
And they're designed to be moved, right? That's transmodal.
Yeah.
Idea, but they simply aren't moved. And, you know, people try dragging them and they wreck their stuff. So it's trying to address the issue before they're delivered.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know I can appreciate that. And I just was wondering if when we do the amendment review, the final review of and pass that bylaw 1000 or the amendments to the bylaw, could this not be a little bit stronger in bylaw 1000? you know, the permits, these regulations.
I think this would be a tool to inform people of the regulations, like the regulations are in place.
Yeah.
Like, you know, other than a variance, it's not a really permitting tool, bylaw 1000.
You know, and I agree with Ian, there's lots of things that all tie together and everything, and I do agree, we should probably look at it a little bit stronger. But I do, on the other hand, I do agree, I have 10 acres, so I don't have a problem with a secant. You know, and I got lots of trees around me, but if I had a lot and somebody brought in a 40-foot secant and parked it right along the fence, and you ended up looking at that, it's blocking your, you know, the view that you used to have, I'd probably be a little upset too, and it didn't. So that, you know, if you're living in a residential lot, that could be a little bit of a problem, and I appreciate that too. So myself, I myself would probably want to hold off and kind of make sure that it ties in with our amendments and everything. I know it's part of our bylaw already, but just to be sure that everything works together. That's my opinion, but. So does anybody want to make a motion? I'd sooner hold off for a bit until we do all our amendments, but does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, maybe can I just suggest that? Well, I guess, what do we want to do here? Do we want to send this to council? And have that discussion and potentially vote it down or whatever? Or do we want to just be trying to figure out how all this stuff works together here and figure out all how this whole Lego piece is going to work? And then this other piece where we know we have amendments coming from bylaw 1000. I think I've said it before at the committee that I think we should be taking a look at larger pieces of bylaw 1000 and what we passed, and if that's actually still stuff that we want in terms of the zoning that we have and the permitted uses and all of this stuff, which I think is just, it's a much bigger kind of ball of wax. So I guess I'm just, you know, what's, I mean,
Let me add.
my preference would be, you know, hold off, let's take a look at it all. And rather than sending it somewhere and then it being defeated and then us saying, well, later on, well, maybe, you know, we are ready for this. That's.
Yeah, let me just add to that. Scott, can I ask when, like, we've met with Kelly and yourself and we've talked about amendments in the bylaw 1000. Are we planning on another meeting fairly soon, or, and we can add this to that?
Yeah, I think we'll probably have those amendments for the next planning and development committee meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, could we add this to that too? To another brief, are we gonna have another brief meeting before we bring it to the planning meeting, like a brief meeting upstairs with Kelly and yourself?
I don't think we were planning on that.
Okay.
So then if I would say if those amendments are coming forward, we know kind of what is in that, we've been working on that, then. Yeah.
Oh, I'm good with that then. If it's coming back to the planning committee with those amendments, then let's do it all at once. Okay, go ahead, John.
Is there any separation for commercial, like as your current siting permit that you're trying to put through? Is there any separation for commercial and residential properties? Like, do we have different siting permitted uses for commercial?
So
They're trying to think that's like, sorry, I'm trying to cut you out there, but like all secants and commercial property, every single one of them is going to need siting permit as well at this point, like per se existing storage units.
right? So I guess there's two ways you look at shipping containers, and one of them is that they're, you know, you're selling them, right? So you're bringing them in, you're selling them, you're stacking them, and you're moving them around. That they're actually not a building at that point, and they wouldn't actually fall under the regulations. But as soon as you kind of park one, start putting stuff in it and using it kind of on that property, it becomes a building, and you need to say. So yeah, one of the, if a company was kind of bringing them in and out and moving them around, and you drop them off someone's house, you bring it, it's briefly there and it's moved on, you probably would need a siting permit. But if it's parked there and
people are loading their stuff there and it remains there using it as a building, then you would need a setting.
So then for all the existing ones, we're gonna force those people to get permits, what you're saying, like all the existing storage complexes.
Right, if they're using them as buildings, yeah.
I really think this has to come to a public consultation and get a lot more input public on that one too, because you're gonna have a lot of ruffled feathers, and we have enough with bylaw 1000 as it is, enough frustrated people.
Okay, yeah, good comment there, John. Like, I didn't know if these ones that are already in place are gonna be non-compliant, just be a non-compliant. And the new ones all have to have permits, or if we gotta go back and bylaw has to go back and say, okay, you gotta get a permit for that CCAN. Yeah, that becomes a little bit of, there's probably, I don't know how many's in the community. There's quite a few CCANs moving in everywhere, so.
Well, and I'm speaking specifically to commercial more than residential, because I could definitely foresee it in residential. I would hate to see cans lined up along every corner of my property, whatever. I can see in residential that, yes, you could have complaints, you could have some issues, but commercials should be treated separately. In my mind, in this one.
Can I just ask a question here?
Okay, go ahead there, Ian.
So cans in residential, we could deal with that in bylaw 1000, say it's not a permitted. You're just not permitted to do it. I mean, we could even stipulate lot size where you could, at what point you could potentially have a CCAN on.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
CCANs aren't permitted in the residential zones. They're only permitted in commercial and industrial zones.
Okay.
The idea is someone calls up, do I need a permit for a CCAN? The answer is no, they get it plopped in their backyard. And then it's like, well, nobody told me I didn't need a permit. Like, but it becomes an issue. And then it's becomes a bylaw enforcement issue. They're spending more money they bought the can, they had it delivered, now they're paying money to take it away and sell it. It goes from I'm $5,000 to get a cheap shed to, $6,500 and I don't have a shed anymore.
But aren't we telling them, no, you can't, it's actually not permitted, so don't put that on your lot, it's not a permitted use.
I guess the issue, they're not asking that question, they're asking, do I need a permit for a CCAN? That's their question, and then they don't need a permit, so they bring it in.
Well, but you can ask say, where are you putting it? Then you're not allowed.
Yeah, if it's, sorry.
Okay, let's just say somebody with small holdings or country residential that has 10 acres wants to put a CCAN on his property. Maybe is that different than on R1?
Well, from my point of view, sure, it would be, but if somebody was calling up and saying, hey, I'm on a residential lot, I'd like to put a CCAN, the answer is no. It doesn't matter about the permit, it's not allowed.
You don't need a permit, but
You don't need a permit, it's just not allowed.
Yeah.
And even if we had the citing permit, well, you still can't get a permit.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. So I guess my point I'm trying to make here is that we already don't allow this in a residential area. And that's what we should just be telling people. If certainly, I mean, they might not necessarily be calling you up, I know, asking that, but if they do, it would just be, sorry, you're in the tree streets, no CCAN or anywhere else.
Yeah, and here's another scenario, like a Jeff Maltness, like he's got 30 acres and he's
Sure.
basically ALR land.
Yeah.
And he wants to have a CCAN to store eggs.
Right.
Can he put one on his not country residential, these large holdings, I think it is. So that's another question. Have you thought about that? Is that something we need to worry about, or should it go to the public? I don't know. Maybe Scott and Sarah, what's your thoughts? Sarah, you're just about ready to say something.
LR is a different story, right? So especially if somebody's storing eggs in it, well, that's a farm use, it's different, right? It really depends on the context and how something's being used, right? And people can be pretty cagey. You can ask them, CCANs, the moment that word, it's like, oh, like we know that it's a contentious issue in residential neighborhoods. But it's almost like you know, if there's no requirement for a permit, then it's almost like, oh, well, there's no oversight, so I can do this. And if my neighbor says something, well, they got nothing to say because I don't need a permit for it. But the minute you need a permit or a business license for something, people feel a lot more, they feel like they're allowed to say something. If I'm making sense, right? Otherwise, they just kind of don't say anything and they just let people do whatever. But the moment they know that, you know, you do need some kind of permission, they're letting their views know about how they feel about something. Right?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you for sure. I just think there's a little bit more we need to do on this one. I think,
I just think that the answer is it's not a permitted use. Yeah, it's not allowed. We've already made that
I've
determination.
had many conversations with people and they ask, just so you know, you're not allowed to use them. I don't need a permit. No, you don't. Okay.
But it's not a
Now this is,
permitted
you can.
use. Like, that's the answer. Sorry, no, you cannot have it on that lot. Period. Period. There will never be a permit because it's not allowed.
We don't go looking for these, we wait for complaints, and people feel a lot more comfortable making a complaint if they know that someone has, they need like a physical piece of paper for permission. This is just my experience.
but you,
Weird.
do you feel that like a large holding or a country residential would be not a permitted use on that?
Said it really depends on what they're using it for, right?
Like storage, like you say, they want to
It's
personal store.
farm use, it's a farm use. right?
Farm use is different again.
It is different, yeah, especially when it comes to building permits, right? A lot of places, and I'm not sure how our bylaw works, but in other places where I've worked, you use building permits for farm buildings, right? You would for a house because you live in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, right there, Ian.
So I think this is what I was getting to earlier, like layering on another piece of regulation where we're already, I see what you're saying, Sarah and Scott. But there has to be a better way, because this is already not a permitted use, not allowed in the residential area. So we made that determination. So that's one set of regulations. Now we're saying, well, the siting permit will be another layer to not allow it, but it's already not allowed. I mean, we wouldn't give a siting permit for it anyways, because I mean, we can't, it's not allowed. So when someone calls up for a residential siting permit for a CCAN or else, the answer is no, not a permitted use. So this is where I think this is where the double of regulations come in, right? All of a sudden it starts expanding and you have multiple layers of regulation where you've actually said one thing on one regulation, and then there's another regulation that says roughly the same thing, or it actually leads you to believe that you could have it because, you know, you can come and ask for a siting permit. Well, no, you can't. It's not a permitted use. So therefore, siting permit's irrelevant because you're not allowed to put that on that lot. So this is where I think regulations are obviously good and needed, but they also need to, I think there's just ways we can streamline this, and we've had quite a few bylaws and we're talking about lots of things around park models and separations, and there's a lot of stuff around bylaw 1000, how we can put this all together to get where I think we want to be, where we're not having uses on properties that we don't want. And obviously we don't want a CCAN right beside someone's fenced yard or unfenced yard in the tree streets and claim that that's going to be a barrier. Like we obviously don't want that, but I think there's ways that we can do this a little bit better.
Okay, how about we do this, like Scott, why don't we just leave this with you guys? You guys now heard a few more, concerns. And when we bring forward the amendment, we can discuss it. That work okay?
Yep.
Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a comment. So I wanted to just just share with folks like how these sort of processes normally work. So to get something into the public eye where we can do that consultation, we do need to bring forward an amendment bylaw and at least give it first reading. so that council's seen it. And then we can start doing the public consultation process, right? So. And I think, and I just want to make sure people understand that. Like there needs to actually be something on the table to consult on, and then it can be changed. And we can bring it back for first reading if it's changed significantly, or drop it if it's not something that's supported.
No, I agree. So, you know, we maybe made a few comments here today about citing permits, and then you might want to have a second thought about it. But if you guys are sold on, you know, everything from commercial to residential or, you know, whatever, it'll be in the amendment, you know, and we can comment on it, and we can let the public know that there's probably, we should let the public know, especially, you know, there's a lot of people out there with sea cans in their backyards. I know that for sure. And they'll be able to come and comment on it in the first reading, and we can go from there.
Just, yeah.
Ready?
Well, then I would add to my comments, you know, now is not the right time to do that public consultation going into summer, right? This would be something I'd say, well, let's, you know, we're going to go out and do public consultation. I'm not a fan of public consultation in July and August. I just think it's a terrible time to do it. I think this could be something for the fall to go out and really have something discussed and have people's attention on it, right? I think when we do public consultation, I said this at council before in July and August, I think you get the appropriate Canadian response in July and August. And I'm on my boat, I'm going out to the beach, and I'm not thinking about politics and all these other things. So things like this, I just, you know, if we want to do it, let's do it properly in the fall. We talked about this when we were talking about the, you know, the road renaming at council the other day. And I think we need to do these things at the right time and make sure that we're getting the public engaged, because it is a little problematic when we do this and then people find out about the rules and then they come back and, you know, they start calling councillors. They start saying, hey, I didn't know about this. Well, I know we've tried to make sure they did, but that doesn't stop the frustration of the complaints. And so if we did something like this, I agree with John, like everyone should be, you know, talking from the hilltops here and saying, hey, this would be a fairly significant change. We want your opinion on this, and you guys really need to pay attention to that. July and August wouldn't be the time to try to get their attention. That's my point.
No, good point. Good points. And well taken. I think we'll make note of that. And hopefully council will be able to make that decision when it comes to council. Okay, anything else with that? Scott, you're good? Okay. And then the last one was item C, short-term rentals. I put that on the agenda. I just wanted to just give a, you got to do that a little presentation too?
I do, it was just
Oh, this is even wonderful.
maybe just an update. So I think we've received 68 applications for short-term rentals. 33 have been issued, 29 we're awaiting additional information. One of the big hangups for those 29 is getting the strata approval. And then we have 6 that are awaiting inspection so that they're on Brett's list. He's getting through them pretty quickly. I mean, some of them have probably been hanging on for a while where you just can't get a hold of them to the inspection, but usually it's about a week and he gets them inspected. So he has about 6 that he's waiting inspections on. So then we also have the map. Sarah created a map. So right on our webpage, put maps. There's a short-term rental map. You can go, you can search, you can click on the little house, then you can get the information, where it is, the local responsible person. So if it's your neighbor or it's in your neighborhood, you click on it, you can see who you can call and say, hey, this person is noisy, or they're parking on the street, or parking in my driveway, and address it with the person who's operating short-term rental as opposed to bylaw. We did have those 3 temporary use permits. So we had 3 of them that came, kind of a little bit of unique situations that are temporary in nature where people could apply for that. I think we only have 1 outstanding bylaw enforcement issue with the short-term rental right now. Outside of stratas, we have had some complaints within stratas. Again, we're waiting, trying to let them sort it out within the strata. Overall, I think it's going pretty well. I think they've seen an uptick in the MRDT money coming in. We're receiving complete applications, and that's a big deal when you get an application and it's completed, as everything, and you can issue it right away. So I think it's going well, but yeah, we haven't seen a lot of those, the hidden ones in the residential zones come forward yet. Our message when people call is, do I need a business license? It's like, yes. We're doing a soft enforcement. 2024, we're going to start a harder enforcement where we're going to start, looking at some of the websites, we're going to start, of the ones we know of, we're going to start that hard enforcement in 2024. But this summer, it's kind of like, we don't want to ruin anybody's vacation and say, hey, July 1st, you're not renting, because, we want people to come to town. So.
Okay, well, that's good. A great presentation. And I just, what brought me to this, putting this on the agenda was, as I was reviewing the map and, I clicked on, I think when I counted on the map last week, there was 28 applications. So I didn't know how long it took for us to get the new places on the map. But by putting this on the agenda, what I wanted to do was more for the public's information, is that, we went out and pounded the pavement really hard to be able to look at other communities and how they market their community, and Golden or Whistler or Calgary or Banff or whoever. And they all have MRDT funds going into a pot, and they're able to advertise their community and bring growth for the hotels. So we had to go to the hotels, the accommodators, and I think we had to have, I can't remember what the number is, but out of the 15 hotels or whatever, we had to have 9 or something, or seven approve the MRDT application. And we promised them that we would police the short-term rental problem and make everybody compete on a level playing field. And when I went on, Airbnb and VRBO and looked at all the applications, I think, holy moly, there's like about 150 on there that I looked at. And there are a lot of them in their residential zones. So I just wanted to let the public know that we, for us to be able to compete and bring all these tourists into this town, you have to participate as well and get on board and get a license, so that we can utilize that money to market the town, and you'll become busier in your short-term rental, and you're a level playing field with a motel. You got a business license, you have insurance, you have to have, fire protection, just like all the hotels have to, and it's a level playing field. So I just wanted to bring everybody aware of the short-term rentals. We are going the soft approach, let everybody, have a year's grace, but don't wait till the end and then, try to help out and get a business license right away and go through the process like, the Kerrs did and the other people in the residential areas. And that's why I put it on the agenda.
Yep. Yeah, on that same kind of note, because even though we're going with soft enforcement, I'm assuming there's still bylaw issues, right? If there's complaints and whatever. So how does John deal with those differently than the ones that have licenses? I know the ones that have licenses have given you all contact info on that, but basically if somebody that hasn't gone through that process has a complaint, he's just contacting the owner on title of the property and finding them. Or
So I don't think we've had any complaints. Right, like this year, we haven't had any complaints of short-term rentals. I asked John yesterday, except one, and it's one that, and we're addressing it through the business license.
You are actually dealing with that, because I assume it's all like parking and noise and stuff, right? But yeah, so okay.
One bad tenant, and
Yeah.
That's all it
neighbors
takes.
notice.
Yeah. I was at Parkland the other day and one of the employees there tore a strip off me, and I told him about the map and all that. He didn't know any of that. And he was complaining about short-term rentals and, and I told him why we implemented it. And after I told him the whole story and he calmed down and he was fine, he understood what we were trying to do, and so it was, they just have to understand it. But
do we think there's, like we're doing soft enforcement and next year will be hard enforcement? So I don't know if there's anything else we can do to incentivize people, so that you don't have a big next year, I guess is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably, we're doing the right thing. I mean, hopefully the media picks it up and it just gets out in the media that, Sycamoose is, we want short-term rentals. Some people do, some people don't. But if we want to compete with and draw people from all over the world, we have to, get professional and look after our hotels and businesses here. Go ahead, Scott.
We have probably 3 or 4 property management companies in town. When we're getting applications, they're usually
Sorry, guys, can we get the sound back?
Here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, as they continue to rent the home all summer long, I mean, every single instances of that is not a permitted use. I mean, I guess that's going to be the challenge, is when we have people that know that they're blatantly not complying. And I don't have a solution for that, but I mean, we know that every house in the Tree Street, and there's plenty of Airbnbs and VRBOs are not compliant. I just wonder, should we be trying to tell them? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think if they put a coach house or something else on those properties, one of them could be used as a short-term rental.
Correct.
So maybe that's the approach we should be having with them, is saying, hey, if you do this on the property, then one of them could be, so that we are trying to drive more housing development. And it's a little, I guess, easier way trying to bring them into compliance than just saying like, you're breaking all the rules. maybe we just tell them, here's how you could actually have a short-term rental and build housing. I think it'd just be worth maybe thinking about it now. We're trying to get our head wrapped around this now, because we know this is gonna come. And all of a sudden, it's gonna be the hammer, and we're really gonna start enforcing on you. But if we can drag them and convince them to be compliant, then that's always better than just saying no.
Good point, Ian. Go ahead there, Deb.
Yeah, no, I agree with Ian, and it was kind of a little bit on what I was already saying, because you don't want, you're gonna be the bad guy next year. You know that these guys are already having done an Airbnb for a very short time. People want to book, you know, they're out at the end of this week. They want to book for next year.
Yeah.
They're already booking for next year and of course, making their plans and such. And if we can actually, we're gonna be looking at the same process now as we're looking at later in terms of the hard enforcement, in terms of identifying these properties. And if we can send them a letter now, giving them options and talking about what they can do, then I think that's gonna go a long ways towards not being the total dicks next year when, you know, and
Yeah,
people are coming into your restaurant and beating the hell out of you and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And maybe we make a recommendation to council to put an ad in the paper and do a write-up on that. And go social media, just you know, inform people that they're allowed to put a cottage house on their property and oh, by the way, next year, you know, you gotta, you know, right now you're running illegal, and by next year, you know, we'll be enforcing them. So that's all good points. Right? Scott, do you have anything else? Yours?
No, Sarah was just mentioning we're doing an open house on secondary dwelling units in July.
Okay.
Through the housing committee, tying that in with it. I don't think we need a recommendation to council. I think we're hearing what you're saying, and yeah, we'll maybe start with some of our known suspects and start with some letters and let people know their options.
Never hurts.
And move forward that way.
Okay, anybody else have anything else? Well, Kelly, you're just in time. Recommend planning and development committee, June 21st.
Thanks, Scott.
This time.
I think
Do you want to talk about the 2 meetings in July and August? Do you want to?
We're going to talk about that?
Yes,
Oh, okay, let's talk about that.
I think we can go down to one.
What's your thoughts on that, Scott?
I think because there's only one council meeting in July and August, then having one planning and development committee meeting shouldn't slow anything down, so.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Anybody else have any comments or concerns?
The date of the council meeting in July,
26.
the 26th. So then should we set the planning and development on the 19th?
The 19th? Does that work? Okay,
And then August, is council the 23rd or the 30th?
I believe it's the 23rd.
23rd.
23rd. So the 16th
Yeah,
of August?
hopefully we'll have more applications. Right?
It's about 3 weeks apart.
That work okay?
Should the only,
What's your concern?
well, no, I'm just thinking like, what is it? We're gonna have a break between now and the 19th. No, we'll have one more before the end of June, correct? No, we won't.
Nope.
So I'm just looking at that. That's from. Or are we gonna have one? Are we gonna have a planning and development meeting in?
No,
No.
I mean, looking
Yeah,
at,
I guess we could always call one, but that's a good, what is that? That's almost 30 days between
Yep.
now and the 19th.
I mean, if you guys got to call us in, you can, you know, if you got some earth shattering new proposal you want to bounce off us, you can just call us. Okay,
Here, so.
great. All right, anything else to add then? Those are, we don't have to make a recommendation for that. All right. Recommend that the Planning and Development Committee meeting June 21st, 2022 be adjourned at 10:05. Whereas Deb, seconder is John, all in favor? Carried. Great, thank you.
Great.
Thanks for coming, Brad. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, you come there.